So I hope you understand by now that it is very desirable to enable transport level security, or TLS, in our pod-to-pod traffic. Now, without something like Istio, that would be very hard work, but because our pod-to-pod traffic is going through the proxies, we can offload all of that hard work onto Istio. The purpose of this video is to show you how to enable that. And I've been hinting previously that, it's just a few lines of YAML. But actually that was earlier versions of Istio. There's nothing to do. It's actually already enabled by default now. The great thing is, in this video, there's no work to do, so you can put your feet up. So it's very nice that TLS is automatically switched on in our pod-to-pod traffic. But do you believe me? Do we actually know that this is really working? That's one of the difficult things about TLS in a cluster. Unless you're going to do some network analysis, it's very difficult to see that it's actually working. But here's another great use of Kiali. I've had the system up and running a while in the background, and switching across to the Kiali console, I think this is quite a new feature of Kiali. So I think this might have only been present from Istio 1.5 onwards, but if you pull up your graph, you will find under the display drop down here an option for security, which is not selected by default. Now, if you switch that on, at the time of recording, it adds an icon to each of the lines between the services. It's not easy to see until you zoom in, but I hope you can see now that I've zoomed in a little bit that we're actually seeing a padlock between the lines. And that's telling us that it is TLS traffic that's going between the microservices. Now, obviously you didn't develop this system, but I can promise you that all of the calls that are being made between the services in the code is just a basic HTTP call. So my code is doing HTTP calls, but the proxy that's intercepting that traffic is automatically upgrading it to TLS. And if I hover over that icon, it does say HTTP alongside the padlock, but don't panic about that. The HTTP just means that the original call here was HTTP, but the padlock icon is telling us that it was upgraded to TLS. Assuming that your pod-to-pod traffic is traveling between proxies, in other words, if you're using Istio, then the traffic will be automatically upgraded to TLS. So there's nothing to do in this video. I do have one more video which will talk about an option that you can change. You can choose between permissive TLS or strict TLS. I'll talk about what that is in the next video.